You're now listening to the Fullerton Unfiltered podcast. Straightforward, no nonsense business advice. Completely unfiltered. Grow your business. Grow your life. Now, here's your host, Brian Fullerton.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Well, welcome to another episode of the Fullerton Unfiltered podcast. It's your host, Brian Fullerton, coming at you guys this beautiful morning. Well, at least some of you guys are probably listening first thing in the morning as you hit the new podcast from myself or Paul or Julio. Slide the phone into your pocket and let's get to work, man. Let's go cut that grass, make that cash. Or today, let's go plug those cores and make that coin. I don't know. Somebody come up with a good one for aeration and overseeding, which is what we're going to be talking about today. It's actually bright and early Tuesday, so we're shooting this podcast episode real time for you guys. We got rained out today. We had some crazy downpours and thunderstorms overnight, which to be totally honest with you guys, I didn't mind kind of sleeping in, catching some Z's. This last weekend, I was hanging out with Caleb and Brittany Allman, which was super exciting. That episode is going to be coming out here in the next week or two as we do we did a podcast with those guys at one of their kitchen tables, dining room tables. It was Liz, myself, Caleb, and Brittany, all four of us on the podcast, and it was just such a good time. So, but to be totally honest with you guys, I'm beat. I'm exhausted. We had just a crazy fun weekend with them. Caleb and Brittany actually took us four-wheeling up in the hills and the mountains. Brittany's grandparents, I think it is, or parents, have a property with like 150 acres. It was absolutely beautiful. We were able to exercise our Second Amendment rights, which was very exciting. I've got some new rifles since this spring. I haven't been able to shoot them outdoors yet. So Caleb and I were putting them about 150 yards downrange. It was extremely exciting, and Caleb was pulling out his arsenal. And, if you're into that kind of thing, just guy time, man time, and just being able to smell the gunpowder and the smoke from all the rounds that we put down range. It was a blast. So, well, let's do this. Today we're going to be talking about aeration and overseeding. I'm not going to take this podcast episode too long and elongate it. What I wanted to do was just talk about some basics to aeration, overseeding, and maybe some opportunity to create some end-of-season revenue. How about that? Short and sweet, super simple. A lot of us are going into the wane of the season. We got another 6 to 9 weeks left. 6 to 9 weeks left of the season. And a lot of us, if you want to grow some extra revenue before we kind of hang it up, there's some opportunity for fall pruning. There's some opportunity for aeration, overseeding. There's some last-minute weeding, some last-minute landscape projects. Right now, it's kind of go mode, right? It's kind of go mode. I get my second wind and I'm like, all right, let's make all the revenue we can. Let's make all the profit we can. That way we can prepare for winter. Winter, if you guys have it, you guys can, make that white gold as we always talk about. But if you don't have it, you got to save all of your nuts for the winter, sort of like the squirrels do. And so for me personally, it's always that big push. I don't have this like scarcity mindset, but I have this like, all right, let's get that last haul before we go into the off season in the winter. So let's do this. Let's hear from Mr. Producer Marty here as he carries the show. But just so you guys know, ever since Marty jumped on board, I don't know if it's just you guys like him more than you guys like hearing me. I'll totally take that because the show was in the top 50, 60 all the time. Very, very thankful for that. And ever since then, we've been in the top 30s and 40s, which is crazy. So the podcast is growing. Thank you so much to Mr. Producer for quarterbacking this whole thing. He covers a lot of logistics on the back end to keep the show coming to you guys 3 days a week. So let's kick it over to Marty, Mr. Producer, and we'll come right on back.
Yeah, no pressure. Thanks, Brian. I think that is definitely one thing I've learned and greatly appreciate about Brian is he is a real encourager. And I know that's one of the reasons you faithfully listen to this podcast is because of his upbeat, super positive approach. When you're grinding away, isn't it nice having a voice in your head, probably playing through your ISO tunes that can just keep you motivated and upbeat? Now, in just a moment, he's going to tell you a little bit about his How to Get Started with Aeration and Overseeding program that is available through LawnTrepreneurAcademy.com. And right now, a little motivation to come hang out with us.
This industry's largest peer-to-peer led training event is just around the corner. And if you guys are ready to bump it up a notch and lay the foundation for an incredibly successful 2021, then Lawntrepreneur Academy Live 2020 is an absolute must-attend event. Lawntrepreneur Academy Live. The fun takes place November 7th in Novi, Michigan at the Suburban Collection Showplace. This year we have 6 amazing speakers, including Nick Carlson, Caleb and Brittany Allman, Corey Ballard, Jeff Joyner, Keith Calhoun, Alphas, and Stanley Genetics. This all-day long exclusive conference focuses on safety training, sales training, and features live panels and demos as well. You definitely don't want to miss out. Refocus, regroup, and re-engage with us this fall at L'Entrepreneur Academy Live 2020. We're so excited to host you guys in Novi, Michigan, and help propel your business to the next level. Hotels and event registration information can all be found at L'EntrepreneurAcademy.com and in today's show notes. And follow along as the excitement builds with the Instagram hashtag LAL2020. See you November 7th.
Awesome. Well, great deal. Always a great time hearing from Mr. Producer, putting the show together. And as you guys have heard on his voiceover work here, he's got a new Instagram handle, Mr. Producer USA. So make sure you guys go follow along with Marty. And also the Green Industry Podcast. He takes care of Paul's podcast, quarterback, and that as well. Always a good time. So let's do this. Let's just jump right into it. Let's talk about aeration and overseeding. Just to give the lay of the land here, I'm going to go through just some numbers, some ideas, some pricing, what you can expect. Maybe if you're brand new, if you already do aerations, maybe this will give you a couple extra tips. If you have never done it before, hopefully this kind of gives you the lay of the land. Now, here's what I will tell you. Long story short, as you guys know, just a quick little plug here. We do have an aeration and overseed training program that you can look at L'EntrepreneurAcademy.com. We have 5 or 6 courses, part of that module, or part of the modules, part of that course, whatever you call it. There's 5 videos in there. There is a welcome video, a how-to office explainer video. There is, a equipment walk-around video, an aeration how-to video. We actually do an aeration for you guys, and there's an overseeding video. So it's like 6 or so videos in there. It's actually some pretty good meat and potatoes. So if you guys want to learn a little bit more about how to do aerations, overseeding, like the actual X's and O's, you can go to L'EntrepreneurAcademy.com. The training program is $49. It is a steal. You'll learn a new skill set for life and be able to start literally knocking out aerations the next day. So let's do this. Let's talk about aeration and overseeding for just a quick second here. So when I got started with my lawn and landscape business, for me, aerations were a great way for me to, like I said earlier, bring in some extra revenue. Now, we do a lot with spring aerations. We also do a lot with fall aerations. I know right out of the gate, let's just cover this right here. Aerations are most beneficial in the fall, but I can thank the national companies, the big boy companies that have made spring aerations a thing, at least in the Midwest and at least in my market, okay? So for us, we normally knock out those spring aerations the first part of March, April. We try to do that before we put the pre-emergent down, that barricade down, that barrier to all the seeds germinating. So that's why we try to do the aerations way before that. Now, yes, long story short, aeration should mostly be done in the fall. Most of my customers, if we're going to sell them on an aeration, it's going to be a fall aeration. But we have a lot of folks, again, because of the national fertilizer companies, they have sold our customers on letting them know to get it done in the spring as well. And it is very beneficial. It opens up the lawn. And what aeration is, it pulls the cores out. There's a couple different types. There's a core aeration. There is a spike aeration. So the spike, a little 5-star, 6-star pointed wheel that spikes into the ground. That's a great option. For us personally, most of us are going to be doing a core aeration, which has the same core type tines that once it digs in the ground, you pull out about a 1/2 inch by 2.5 inch, maybe 3 inch long core. So that's called a core aeration. So number one, if you start advertising this service, let everybody know that you offer core aeration, not a spike aeration. So when you do a core aeration, what you're doing is you're pulling those plugs out of the lawn, and that is going to allow the lawn to breathe. Which is what aeration is. It brings in some air. So it's going to allow the lawn to aerate. It's going to allow it to breathe. As we say, it's going to allow the water and nutrients to get down to the soil. It's going to help the lawn grow thicker, faster, larger roots for the lawn. And frankly, for a lot of my customers, here's the testimony I always get. When we do spring or fall aerations, and we do this year over year for our lawns, for our customers, what they have always said is they're able to reduce their watering times. When we do a spring aeration and we mow at 3.5 or 4 inches, we keep the lawn a little bit longer through summer. The lawns don't burn out as fast. A lot of practical benefits and value that is derived from an aeration. So again, if you guys have never done an aeration, I hadn't either until I started working back in the day for True Green. Back in the day, when I was working for those guys, I was on the aeration crew. So I had maybe a 30-inch walk-behind aerator, and then we'd always take like a 20 or 21-inch aerator for those gated backyards. And man, we were doing aerations left and right. with Aerations, back when I worked at the National Guys, fertilizer company, we were commissioned. So every time we did an aeration, and don't quote me, but I made 4, 5, 6, 7%, or $5 or $7 or $10, whatever it was back in the day for aerations. And so for me, when I was doing, let's say $400 or $500, $600 a day in aeration work, those incentives really motivated me to get on out there. To be honest with you, we couldn't have even got a 10% commission. I'm trying to remember what it was, but I was able to add another 20, 30, 40 bucks a day to my hourly rate while doing those aerations. So when aerations came in, I was like, yo, I'll move over from the fertilizer crew and we'll go and jump onto the aeration crew, right? And so that's where I got my feet wet with learning how to do aerations, working with TruGreen. Now, when I went into business for myself and I was cutting grass, I was broke, right? Let's just remember, if you guys haven't heard my whole story, go all the way back to episode 1. All the way back to episode 1. It's a classic. It's Who is Brian's Lawn Maintenance? And it's my wife and I's startup story. And we kind of give you the lineage of how we got to where we are today. Maybe if you guys are just jumping on board to the podcast, sincerely, thank you guys for listening and listen to me blab all day and all morning. But I know it helps the day go by as we all do work, whether we're cutting grass or doing landscaping or irrigation or fertilizer, right? Well, when I was getting started in business, it was about maybe 2 or 3 years in to my season, I realized I have a lot of expense at the beginning of the season. Right? In the spring, I need my liability insurance is due. Now, you can pay monthly. Most of the time, liability insurance is due for the year. My commercial auto, right? You can pay monthly, but let's just say you have a $900, $1,200 commercial auto insurance bill for the year. Maybe it's a couple $1,000. Let's say you want to get your season started. You need marketing and print materials, right? You need $200 to $500 worth of postcards, $200 to $400 worth of yard signs. You wanted some new business cards. Maybe you wanted some new shirts because the ones from last season are trashed. So for me, aerations in the spring were a great way for me to generate revenue in the spring to help me make money to be able to afford all this upfront capital that I needed for my business. And it got some cash flow coming in. Now, imagine this, back in the day, as a lot of you guys know, I was a mow and blow guy only. We had low prices. We were just literally cutting grass. So when we were getting started, in Michigan, for example, spring could start sometime mid to late April. Spring could start sometime mid to late May, if you know what I'm saying. So sometimes we were getting those first couple mows in April, but sometimes we weren't starting until May 1st. Now, let's fast forward, as you guys can imagine. If we're cutting grass, and let's say it's a slow start to the season, and we're only cutting grass May 1st forward, well, it's 4 weeks of May, maybe it's a 5-week month, but it's 30, 35 days until we're done with that first mows, that first month under our belt for lawn maintenance. And so back in the day, right, this is why we always talk about using yard book and credit card on file and charge card on file, which is where we get the customer's credit card information. We send them a private link through Yardbook. Almost every CRM nowadays does this or has the ability to do that. If you're still writing out paper invoices, I was listening to the Green Industry podcast the other day with, was it Jake the Lawn Kid and Paul Jameson, or I don't know if it was an episode before that, but Paul was laughing. He's like, dude, he saw some guy at the bank, and the guy was depositing a stack full of checks, 20 or 30 checks. Lord knows I was there for the longest time. The check was under the grill, the check was under the doormat, the check was in the front door, checks in the mail, as Paul says, and no, it ain't. No, it is not. So I was always chasing around checks. So my cash flow was so poor, and so I needed to do aerations to get some revenue coming in. And again, if we're just cutting grass that first month of May, and I was sending invoices out, right? And it would take a week for all those to get through the mail. And then how quickly do you think people were paying? Well, at best, the customers were paying within a week. I mean, very, very unlikely. Usually it was a week, 2 weeks out. So my first 2-3 years in business, I was like, dude, this is not going to work. I front, 2, 5, 10 grand worth of work, whatever it was back in the day, and it would grow every year for the month of May, all this maintenance work. And then it would take 2 to 3 more weeks for me to get any money coming in. And maybe some of you guys are shaking your head because you've been there. It would take another 2-3 weeks to collect. So when we started in the spring, I had 8 weeks out before I would start getting any money from any of the work we were doing, because mostly we were just mowing. Now, eventually I got into spring cleanups, and eventually I got into aerations, and that was that seed money to get this thing going. So if you guys are ever struggling with cash flow in the spring, and you're able to offer aerations, this could be a great way to bridge some of that early revenue. I know it might only be $400, $500, $1,000, $4,000, but for me personally, holy crap, it was a life-changing event by offering an additional service to my business. And to be totally honest with you, it wasn't really that hard of a service to do. We're going to go into how you can rent, how you can go borrow an aerator from like a Home Depot, a Chet's Rental, a Sunbelt, all that here in just a quick second. But the reason I got into aeration wasn't because, well, I care so much about the turf and I care so much about my customers and snow compaction this or, whatever. No, dude, it was a business move. We were so broke in the spring, which again, back in the day, I wasn't really doing commercial snow plowing, right? I was doing some residential driveways, but I basically came in on fumes landing the airplane in, March, April. And I was like, oh man, we just made it through winter. Like that's already tough enough, right? And now we're going into spring and I need $1, $2, $4, $5,000. Where am I going to get this money? Am I going to throw it on a credit card? Well, great. Now I don't get any of that cash for another 6-8 weeks from my first month of mowing. So for me, it was a very, very practical reason I got started offering spring aerations. And again, it is the same reason why I go into winter. I don't know. I think I have some PTSD here. I think I got some PTSD. Every time we get into about September 1st, we get that first cool week and all my brain, I'm like the little antenna on the little ant. Like my ears go up, my antenna go up and I'm like, oh no, like we got to hurry. We got to hustle. We got to get this last big haul, this last big hurrah. And we always have surplus now, like thankfully, because it's been 10, 12 years and we got our crap together. But man, it was like the same kind of hustle in the fall. I'm like, all right, my fall aerations, this is my bread and butter. This is padding the stats money. This is, if we're going to go into winter, let's get an extra $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 in the bank, in the coffer, in the till, because that does make a huge difference. Back in the day, for me, with peace of mind, going into winter, I could just breathe a little bit easier, sleep a little bit better, have a little bit more money for, Christmas or the holidays or whatever we were doing. And aerations bridged the gap for me big time. So let's do this. We're going to take a quick break here. We're going to kick it back over to Mr. Producer to hear from some of the show sponsors and show announcements, and we'll come on right back.
Are you learning as much as I am today? This is fantastic. My notebook is just filling up here. One of the ways that we're able to keep these podcast episodes free with all of the takeaways is, first of all, because you support our sponsors. If you've recently bought a product from L'Entrepreneur Academy or visited one of our other show sponsors, thank you. Secondly, it's your ratings and reviews that appease the people behind the curtain that manage the algorithms. And if you recently gave a 5-star rating and review, we're going to read a few of those in just a moment.
For those of you guys interested in breaking into the snow removal game, this one's for you. Now available exclusively at thel'entrepreneuracademy.com. We've got you covered with the How to Get Started Plowing Snow training program. This powerful resource is there to help you guys learn the basics to plowing snow, what to charge, major pitfalls and mistakes to avoid, and so much more. Hands down, one of the most anticipated and helpful training programs we have available. We'll get you up to speed on how to crush it with your snow removal business in no time. Check out the training program today at l'entrepreneuracademy.com, because before you know it, we'll be out there plowing that snow and making that dough. Ratings and reviews. Each week, we take a minute to highlight your guys' reviews of the show.
Let's dive right in. Our first 5-star review comes from Matt with Lake Lawns in Auburn, Alabama. He says, brother, wonder if he's a Hulkamaniac. Brother, thank you for everything you do, Brian. Just discovered this amazing world of podcasts and look forward to listening every time I hop on the X mark. Your podcast is full of excellent content, and I appreciate it. Now, this parenthetical comment comes from Mr. Producer, not from Matt, but I hope this statement doesn't seem politically incorrect or even sexist. But brother, I'm here to tell you, the prettiest women in the world live in Auburn, Alabama, some of my old stomping grounds. And of course, I got to give a shout out to Athens, Georgia as well, but a couple of Mr. Producer's favorite haunts. Our next 5-star review from DJ Wreck Yourself Gaming. Brian made me do it. It's how he titles his 5-star review. If it wasn't for Brian, I would have never followed my dream to start my own lawn care company. It's called Straight Blades Lawn Care, and we've been killing it this year. Thanks to you. Please never stop doing what you do. And the last 5-star from Josiah at Tuba, best lawn care podcast Hey, Brian, listen to this. You're going to like it. Hey, Brian, I'm 16 years old. I own a small landscape business, with my two brothers. 44 lawns a week as of this review. We're not trying to make it huge, but maybe I will at some point. But I'm still in high school, so just trying to make some money for college, etc. Listen to this, Brian. I've been able to buy a truck at 16, and we just got a new stand-on mower, which I now know about thanks to your YouTube channel. I'm so grateful for your podcast and YouTube channel, and I can't say how many times you've answered my questions. I really liked the episode with Brian from Top Notch. You two are my favorite lawn channels. Keep it coming. By the way, love the truck, trailer, mowers, etc. And he says, thanks for reading it from Josiah. And Josiah, Brian is listening to it right now. Thank you for taking time to give us those incredible reviews, guys. We appreciate it.
Want us to read your review next? Let us know how we're doing, and we might just read your review on next week's show.
Awesome. Great deal. Always a good time hearing from Mr. Producer and all the reviews as well that are coming in from the show. Again, I really appreciate Marty quarterbacking this whole thing. And you guys can tell that he has a blast producing the show. I give him free reign to say whatever he wants and to do whatever he wants. I'm like, yo, we just got to get this thing out Monday, Wednesday, Friday. After that, he carries the whole team, right? So let's talk about the how-tos of doing aerations and overseeding. Again, we do have that aeration and overseeding training program. And by the way, we have about probably 10 to 15, maybe 20 aeration overseeding videos on YouTube. So you're like, well, why do we need the aeration training program? Well, because all the info that we put on YouTube, we have 700 videos, okay? In every video that's 10 or 12 minutes long, you guys know, it starts off with, hi, I'm Brian's Lawn Maintenance. I'm from Troop 42. Would you like to buy some, Girl Scout cookies? It's like the song and dance, right? Because that's what YouTube is. There's a lot of new people that come into that ecosystem. Well, all the same content that we have on YouTube, it's right there in the training program, and vice versa. The difference with the training program, it's $49. It's all meat. It's all there. And within, I'd say about an hour and a half, 2 hours, you can consume that whole training course and that training program and get up to speed to be able to rock and roll and be empowered to do aeration and overseeding. Now, let's go into the aeration and overseeding. Again, just some practical, tips and lay of the land is when you're marketing this to your customers, whether you have a cold market or a warm market, meaning sometimes your customers are used to it. Sometimes your customers have never heard about it. The first thing we have to do is communicate that we offer it. Now, whether you're trying to send out newsletters or information via email blast, newsletters, maybe you're slipping something in the paper invoice, which again, we're all trying to get away from, but maybe you have a little flyer or insert that you can include as you send the invoice out. That works great as well. The bottom line is that we got to communicate that we offer this service. And number two, if the fertilizer company is offering the service that your customer is going with, maybe you're the mow guy, you do the lawn care, the landscaping, and the snow, but they have a fertilizer company, that national fertilizer company. The biggest thing I'll tell you is get that business away from those guys, okay? You want to be able to manage that part of the business. Now, can you do the fertilizing and the herbicide? Probably not. You got to have your applicator's license and have your credentials there, right? But you can still do the aeration, okay? So here's what I always tell my customers. Hey, we can do the aeration for you. In fact, we use a drum aerator. We use a stand-on aerator. Our aerator is a lot better. It's higher quality. We can dig deeper cores. I'm going to be doing it instead of like the $12 an hour national fertilizer guy. So I'm going to care more. You start selling the customer on you being able to do the aeration instead of the national fertilizer guy. Now, for me, one of my upsells is, hey, we've got a stand-on aerator, okay? It was like $8 or $9 It was from Exmark. We bought it. It was part of the fleet deal that I did when I bought my 2016 Laser Z X with the bagger. Now, I know that a lot of you guys aren't going to have access to stand-on aerators personally, but you can always rent them. Again, Sunbelt, Chet's Rent All, a bunch of local places by you guys. You can rent a stand-on aerator for. It's going to vary a lot, $150 to $300 a day. I've seen most of them are about $200 to $250 a day. So if you're going to rent an aerator, obviously we're going to line up 5, 10, 20 aerations on one day or 2 days. Sometimes if you can borrow it on a like a Friday morning, or I'm sorry, a Saturday morning, they will give it to you the whole weekend and you can drop that bad boy off, Monday morning, 7 or 8 a.m. Sometimes you get lucky with those weekend rates where let's say it's $200 a day, but they're closed on Sunday. Now, sometimes, they want it back Saturday by 3 p.m. So just make sure you check with your people. But that's what I always used to do back in the day. I would rent it for a Friday or Saturday. And typically like Home Depot or the other place or the Sun Belt, we have a local place called Tool Time. Tool Time over in Highland, Michigan. If you guys know, if you guys live local, you know who I'm talking about. Great guys over there. They would let me keep it on Sunday, and I just had to have it back Monday morning at 7 a.m. Now, a walk behind aerator, you might be able to rent 4 hours for $50, $75. A day rate might be 90. You might even be able to do a walk behind weekly rate for about $200. So again, tons of options out here, just like when you rent like the compressors for irrigation blowouts, right? You can rent per hour, per 4-hour window, per day, per week, bunch of different rates. So those are your two price points. You got like $75 for the day for a walk behind unit. You can even get like a Classen aerator or a Ryan aerator from Home Depot. Now, you guys might not have a Chet's rental, or you guys might not have a Sunbelt rental, but everybody's got a Home Depot within 30 minutes, and you can go rent a Classen, red walk behind 30-inch aerator for, 4 hours for $75. And you should be able to knock out at least one aeration per hour for a 4,000 to 6,000 square foot home. Now, I will tell you this, the walk behind units, if you've ever used them before, they're going to beat your butt. I don't care if you're a 160-pound string bean like me or you're a 225-pound linebacker. They are going to beat you up. For me personally, yes, I wanted to invest in the stand-on unit to make more money and to have more efficiency and productivity. No doubt about that. But I'll also be honest with you, it was an investment into my health, so I didn't kill my body. I used to call it Hell Week, to be honest with you guys, because about 7 or 8 years ago, before I had that stand-on aerator, at the peak of my aeration, we were doing about 60, 70 aerations per week with 2 units with 2 guys. So me and another buddy, we would do 60 to 70 walk-behind aerations in 1 week. And literally, I would go through a bottle of Aleve, and I'm just being serious. My arms, my forearms, my body, everything ached. It was insane. And some of you guys listening in, you guys do walk behind aerations. You get the walk behind unit. They're just bum, 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 bum. And then you hit a well or a manhole cover and boom, you just like, the whole thing juts up, or you bump into it and you just like, get sucker punched in the stomach and you like lose all your air. If you've ever been there, you know what I'm talking about. So for me personally, like the big dream on my vision board, it wasn't land, it wasn't property, it wasn't a Ferrari, okay? It wasn't a Tesla, it was a stand-on aerator unit, man, because I did aeration. You got to think now, I've been doing aerations for, at that time, before I got my stand-on aerator, for almost 10 years, right? So I bought that like 29, 30-ish years old. But from 1920, when I was working at True Green, I had been using walk-behind aerators for 10 plus years. And I've probably walked, literally, folks, 500, 600, 700 lawns doing walk behind aerations. So people want to talk about like paying dues or like all this free stuff that like Xmark sends us or whatever. Look, I get it, but dude, don't tell me I haven't paid my dues with walk behind 500 to 1,000 walk behind aerations. Okay. And if you've done 1 or 2, you're like, holy cow. Now, some of you guys listen in, you do the same thing. Every spring, it's 20, it's 50 aerations. At the peak with my stand-on aerator about 3 years ago, we were doing about 90 spring aerations, about 70 or so fall aerations. We would crush it. We would really crush it. Those numbers have definitely dwindled. Now we're doing about 30 spring aerations and about 15 or so fall aerations because there's only so much time in a day. We're not selling it as hard as we need to, since I don't want to say we don't need the money. There's so much other work to be doing. Mulch, mowing, YouTube. There's just so much other stuff. Now, as I start to bring a full-time guy on like Rob, I told Liz the first place we're going to look for the low-hanging fruit for easy revenue for us is aerations. Absolutely. Because my customers are, because of the national fertilizer companies and then also myself over the years, we've trained our customers that you get aerations. Whether you get it in the spring or the fall, it's up to the customer. If you're going to only do one, sell them the fall aeration. If you're got the customer that wants lawn of the month, offer them a spring aeration and a fall aeration, okay? People say, well, do you need it done every year? My personal opinion is no. I'd say every other year is a great pace. But for our customers, when we send out our service agreement in the spring, a lot of you guys can get those free downloadable lawn service agreements for our residential clients at launchpreneuracademy.com. Right on the main page, you scroll all the way to the bottom. There's a free resource there that is our free lawn agreement. That's what we send out in the mail, snail mail, every spring, and people can check all the boxes for the service they want. And like I said in the probably on a YouTube video about 6 months ago when we did that video, when we get all those forms back and we open them all up with the mail opener and we start calling to confirm our customers, the first upsell we do is always aeration. It's so easy to say, hey, I noticed on the service here that you checked that you wanted the lawn mowing and the mulch. That's awesome. Hey, I noticed that you didn't check the aeration this year. If you wanted, we can schedule that in. We got the room on the schedule still at this time. But if you want to get that, added in, we can do it. Absolutely no problem. And I'd say 50% of the time, literally 50% of the time, they're going, oh, I can't believe I didn't check that. Yeah, we definitely want the aeration, or we want the fall aeration. Add us to the list. Sorry, my husband didn't check that, or sorry, I didn't check that. I didn't see it. No big deal. Now, for overseeding, the reason we do a lot of the overseeding for us personally in the fall is because the pre-emergent is that first round or two that has the herbicide. That's going to nuke your seed from germinating. And that's why you don't see a lot of guys do the overseeding in the spring. That's why overseeding is typically done in the fall. After the summer damage, after the mower tires are turning, whether you're doing the sprinkling some seed around the perimeter on the inside of the lawn, the perimeter on the outside of the lawn, maybe some turn spots that you've been doing, some divots. That's where you're going to be doing your overseeding and repairing and thickening up a lot of that turf. Now, again, my opinion and, kind of like the lay of the land for the industry is you're going to be doing a lot of that towards the fall, especially if you're up here in the Midwest with the cool season grasses. I can't speak too much to my summer folks and my warm season grasses down south. I don't have that turf type. I'm not going to weigh in on that. Maybe reach out to like an Alan Hain or a Jason Creel down in Alabama Turf Pros. Those guys would be able to help you out, point you in the right direction. For all of us in the cool season grasses, the perfect time to do that is basically right now. Mid-September forward, you can do that all the way through the end of October, no problem. That's usually when we do ours. We usually start scheduling ours right about now. We're going to be knocking those out here end of September, first part of October, and that's going to thicken up the lawn. Now remember, the temperatures outside might be dropping in from the 70s to the 60s and 50s, but the ground temperature is still warm enough for that seed to mix into the thatch layer, germinate, take root, and thicken up the lawn, right? So we always, if we're going to do overseeding, we do make it available in the spring, but it's tough because you really got to coordinate with that customer. Hey, when was your herbicide round? What was the pre-emergent round? When was the last, when was that first round application, right? So a lot of us up here in the Midwest, that's going to go down March, April. Well, if you do an aeration overseeding a week later, what's going to happen to your seed? It's going to get nuked out by the herbicide. So it's not going to be able to germinate and work. So the rule of thumb for us, at least up here with what we do with our business, is we'll do overseedings, but we have to coordinate with the customer. When was that first round application down? What was in it? And then we normally timeline is end of May. We're able to do overseeding if they want something, cleaned up or thickened in from the spring with an overseeding. Okay. So when do you do the overseeding for us? We always do about the end of May, about 30 days out from that pre-emergent round, which contains the herbicide. The fertilizer is not going to bother it, which is good. It'll actually help it. And then in the fall, same thing, we start doing those fall aerations, mid to late September, going through basically October. If I pick up a last minute aeration from a customer, they say, hey, can you get us on the schedule? And it's like anytime between, mid-September through Halloween. Absolutely. After about Halloween, we're done mowing, we're done aerating. We kind of close up shop for that part of the business. And then we start thinking all things Entrepreneur Academy. Just kidding. We start thinking all things fall cleanups, right? Because our live event's November 7th this year for the Entrepreneur Academy Live. So the price point for us, every price is going to change. Every price is going to vary. We used to be doing aerations for 40, 50, 60 bucks. A lot of that was low ball pricing. Also, the industry was so deflated because of 08, 09 that everybody dropped their pricing on that stuff. These national fertilizer companies kind of bother me as well because they'll say, hey, we'll sell you a whole, annual year, which is a year, the annual fertilizer service for, $375 or $350 or $400, right? And if you prepay, we'll give you 10% off and a free aeration. And I'm like, why are you giving away aerations? They're $100. Like it takes a lot of effort, a lot of muscle. But that was the thing with national fertilizer guys. If you're doing that, stop doing that. Stop doing that. Like you do not need to do that in this economy, in this market. When the world hit the reset and the pause button in 08, a lot of folks were giving away aerations. Don't be doing that in 2020. Okay, let's raise our prices. Let's make sure we're making money, and don't be doing that. Now, for pricing for what we do right now, we're at $25 per 1,000 square feet for an aeration. So a 4,000 square foot subdivision lawn, that's about $100. If you refer a neighbor, we'll give you $20 off, and we'll give the neighbor $20 off. That's what I do. So if I have a customer that refers, and that's got to be like immediate clover marketing, like the 3 people across the street from you or the 2 people on both sides. Anything longer than that, I mean, even in the same subdivision, doesn't qualify. Because it's got to be like right next to you, because every time I'm starting the truck, dropping the ramp, reloading, unloading, the whole deal, we're not making a lot of money. But if you have an immediate neighbor, I mean like border neighbor, I will give you $20 off and the neighbor $20 off, because it takes me with a stand-on aerator about 15 to 20 minutes to aerate your lawn correctly. And if I'm right there and I can do the neighbor, yes, I'll make $160 and double the time, or saving a few percent. So that's what I do to incentivize my customers. Immediate neighbors, that's what we offer. So anytime we send out a newsletter, a flyer, a campaign, or I get a call or a text from a customer, hey, honey, do you do aerations? Can you add us to the list? Absolutely, we do. Awesome. Well, add us to the list, and then I'll say, okay, cool. We'll see you in about 2 weeks when we start scheduling them. I'll shoot you a text for a heads up, just so you know. By the way, the other part of it is if the customer has sprinklers or, invisible fence, the Comcast line, if they happen to know where that stuff is, I always tell them, make sure you guys mark it with the little utility flags. You can get them at a Site One. You can get them at a Home Depot. Here's our rule of thumb. If they're not marked, we don't take responsibility for them. Period, case closed. If the customer's like, oh man, you hit one of my sprinkler heads with with the aerator. Hey, sorry, not my problem. You didn't mark them. That's the liability or whatever. You accept that risk. Most every customer will be able to mark them. Just give them about 2 or 3 days heads up. Also, the cores that are left on the lawn, typical FAQ type question. No, you don't rake those up or take those with you. They biodegrade in about a week or two. After the first mow or two, they just kind of dissipate and you're good to go. But again, when we're talking to any of our customers, as soon as we make a close on a sale and we schedule that work, we go right into, hey, if you want to save about $20, if any of your neighbors want to get in on it, let them know also to mark their heads, right? So same thing with the neighbor. And we'll make sure to, share their number with us or vice versa. We start texting. I get the neighbor, hey, it's Bob Jones. Hey, Bob, we're going to be doing, Mary's lawn. We're going to be doing yours the same day. I just realized, just found out. Appreciate the business. Appreciate the work. Hope to do a great job for you guys. Please mark the sprinkler heads. Please send me an email so I can get you into our system, and we'll invoice you as well. Right? Super simple stuff, man. So if we're already there making $100 because we're doing $25 per 1,000 square foot on 4,000 square feet, why would we not just do the neighbor? I mean, all the time, your neighbors, all of your neighbors have one neighbor that they're buddy with. The other 3 neighbors they don't like, but they always, you guys know what I'm talking about. They always have one across the street or one to the left or one to the right, or like the next home over or something on the same street. They all have a buddy. And if they're getting it, the other customer is getting it. So let's incentivize the customers to save a couple bucks and be able to double down on our productivity and efficiency. Again, if sprinkler heads aren't marked, they're not your responsibility, okay? That is on the customer. That is our firm policy. When you do an aeration, we always stay about 10 to 12 inches away from all perimeters. That way we don't hit any of the boundary line sprinkler mister heads on the sides of the property. Most of the subdivision lawns don't have anything on the inside of the lawn other than maybe a well. So I always ask the customer, hey, any well heads, anything that any sprinkler boxes, anything that I should know about? It's always great to get like a little map of the property. Sometimes you can even walk the property before you start aerating. I mean, 2 minutes up front can save you 20 minutes of a problem later on. And that's pretty much it. Go up and down. You start aerating the property. If you want to do a double pass, like it's called like a deep aeration, you're allowed to do that. 9 holes per square foot, I think, is what most aerators do. I think 12 to 15 holes per square foot is like a deep aeration or a double aeration. We don't really do that. Usually we do one pass. If you're renting any of these machines and you want to fill up the drums with some water to make them a little bit heavier, go for it. All the rental ones, we never do that. But if they have a weight kit, I will add the weights. When you're using a stand-on aerator, don't quote me on the PSI, but I think normally we're at about 150 to 200 PSI on the dial. If you want to turn it up a little bit because you've got some dense turf and it's not very wet out, go ahead and crank that up to 250, maybe pull 2.5, 3 inch cores. You don't want to do anything less than an inch, anything really more than 2.5 to 3 inches, okay? So that's the lay of the land. If you want to learn how to overseed, we have that in the training course. We give you the how many per thousands. Always consult your local supply yard, like a Site One, and they'll get you up to speed about what seed and where and why and what mixtures. For us, we use the Lesco blend. It's usually a Kentucky Blue, Rye, and Fescue mix. We have all the numbers and all the formulas in the training course. I'm not going to go into it all right now because you guys are, probably on a lawnmower, not going to be taking notes on this necessarily. But aerations. Aeration and overseeding for us has been a cash cow. Again, imagine back in the day. Now, I was doing like I said, like 50 to 75 to 90. One year we did 90 spring aerations. I think that was the year I was getting married, to be honest with you guys, now that I think about it, because we were selling everything, man. We're like, everybody's on sale. Let's do this. You get an aeration, like it's Oprah. We did 90 at $50. They were like $50 back in the day. They should have been $100, but again, the economy was still kind of recovering and prices weren't where they needed to be. That was some on me, some on the market. But if I did 90 of them at $100, that's $9,000 that I can make in the spring. You want to talk about a cash infusion like no other? Awesome opportunity there. What else we got? If you want to do fall aerations, right? Fall aeration, let's say you get 10 of them lined up and they're $100 each or $200 each or $150 each. That's $1,500 in aerations. And let's say you go do 4 or 5 overseedings at about $199 each for 4,000 square feet. Well, now you get another $800. So you can have 1,000 in aerations, 800 in overseeding. That's $1,800. You take out the seed, you take out the aerator rental, and you might have about $400 into that day. And what are you going to net? $1,400. That you can do that all day long, all the time. Friday, Saturday, especially. We usually do ours on Fridays and Saturdays. Last question I get is, do you mow immediately after? For us, we always try to mow the grass, aerate, and overseed all in the same day. So mow, aerate, overseed. By then, when we come to mow the following week, that seed is mixed into the grass, into the thatch layer, and usually you can mow right after. Some people will skip 1 week, but again, if you skip a week and you lose a $40 cut, just make sure you bake that into the aeration or overseeding price so you're not like making money but then losing money, right? Doesn't make any sense. So for us, we'll mow, we'll aerate or overseed that evening or like literally the next day, and maybe we'll elongate the following week. Instead of mowing every 7 days, we might push it to 8 or 9 days. That way we can still get that extra mow in and not lose that extra revenue, right? We don't want to do $3,000 in fall aeration overseeds and then lose $300 on weekly mowings because we did, 8 aeration overseeds, right? Does that make some sense? So all right, so the last little tip I always get, what about acreage? Usually it's like $200 to $250 per acre with a stand-on aerator. You might be able to charge a little bit more. I definitely wouldn't be charging anything less, okay? So you can do some bulk there. The toe behind aerators, haven't really used those. The ones that go like the JR codes that go on the front, haven't really used those. Love to see some photos. If you guys got some, tag me on Instagram and love to repost those. Some of those units, they mount on the front forks and casters for our zero turns, and you can just hit one little actuator. It punches the whole front end into the ground, which is awesome. All those core, spikes, and you can rock and roll those zero turns, right? So any which way, that's aeration and overseeding. Great way to bring in some cash in the spring. Great way to bring in some cash in the fall. Doesn't take like tons of know-how like a retaining wall, or doesn't take licenses like fertilizer and pesticide application. Every mow guy, should be able to hedge trim, do pruning, and aeration. I mean, like bar none. Once you want to get after the next service that you could expand on is spring and fall cleanups. The reason I put an asterisk there is that it's a little bit more intensive with, you need dump trailers or dump trucks or, ways to haul all the leaves and debris away. You need backpack blowers. You need hoppers and leaf loaders for your mowers or catch pros on the side. It starts getting a little bit more fiscally, heavy. So you need to make those investments. But come on, you can rent an aerator for $50, $75, $100. You can rent a stand-on aerator for $200 that day. Line them all up, and you're good to go. Aeration is an awesome opportunity to bring in some cash flow in the spring, pad stats, pad your finances in the fall. You go add $1,000 worth of aerations in the fall. You know what? For me, that's peace of mind. Even an extra $1,000 at any level, it's just good extra money, right? And, if you want to go do 10 of them and take care of Christmas in one day, that's an option as well, right? So All right, if you guys want to learn more, go to launchpreneuracademy.com. Check out the Aeration Overseed training program. It's $49. I think promo code podcast should save you 10% on that as well. So that'll save you guys $5. If you guys have any questions, shoot me a DM on Instagram. If you guys enjoyed this episode, don't forget to leave those 5-star ratings and reviews. Maybe throw a screenshot or a cool soundbite from this podcast if you guys enjoyed it up on Instagram. Love to repost. Always appreciate you guys sharing. Let's make some money, guys. Let's take care of our customers. Let's thicken up those lawns. This is the time to do it over the next 6 weeks. Let's pad the bank account, put a couple extra $1,000 in the checking account. Lord knows that, more money in the bank account is better than less money, especially with this roller coaster that we're calling 2020. Amen. So, all right, guys. Well, that's it. I'm going to kick it back over to Mr. Producer. Thanks so much for listening in. Guys, we can't wait to catch up with you guys on the next episode of Fullerton Unfiltered.
Hey, it's Marty, and the entire time that I was listening along today, my mind just kept going back to an ancient proverb, and I actually went and looked it up just to make sure I quoted it accurately, because I think it's very appropriate for all that Brian was talking about. It says, "Take a lesson from the ants, you lazy bones. Learn from their ways and become wise. Though they have no prince or governor or ruler to make them work, they labor hard all summer, gathering food for the winter. But you lazy bones, how long will you sleep? When will you wake up? A little sleep, a little more slumber, a little folding of the hands to rest. Then poverty will pounce on you like a bandit. Scarcity will attack you like an armed robber." Well, Brian has certainly given us an idea of how we can be like that ant, ending the season with a bang, making sure our financial cupboards are just full for the winter months. Please check out the How to Get Started with Aeration and Overseeding program available through launchpreneuracademy.com. And come back soon for another mega download of know-how and encouragement.
Thanks for taking the time to listen to the Fullerton Unfiltered podcast with Brian Fullerton. We hope you enjoyed this production. If so, please consider leaving us a 5-star review for the show. While the techniques and ideas presented here are designed to help you grow a more successful and profitable business, no one can guarantee these results for you. We want to emphasize that entrepreneurship is not easy, and the ideas presented here are just the opinions of Brian Fullerton and his respective guests. No one can guarantee success for you. That being said, we hope the ideas presented here help you and motivate you to go on out there and crush it with your own business.
Fullerton Unfiltered Podcast.
Thanks for listening, and we hope to see you on the next episode.